whether it is fornication, it's adultery, it's lying, it's stealing, it's murder, whatever the nature of sin. In love, we should correct people and continuously admonish them.
And even talking about abuse, even some pastors abuse their wives.
I think it is high time we begin to teach them that it isn't just about this woman is beautiful, this man is fine, so that you can point to people, this is my husband.
Exactly.
It takes a lot to be in marriage.
Oral sex has a lot of implications, and one of it is the fact that it is one of the easiest way for the transmission of sexually transmitted diseases.
Trying to get something from somewhere you don't like, you will chop their money, and that money you eat fufu with it can block your womb. There is a woman who is praying, but most of these young girls don't know that they are lying.
You see, so most married men go out there and lie to innocent girls.
That who told you are innocent? These hypocritic girls.
Some of the girls are innocent. Because I know some girls who will tell you that if you are married, forget.
Indeed, what a glorious day it is today for us to be alive. What can we say? To God be the glory for how far He has brought us. Now, this is Weekend Review, and surprisingly, we are 2 years this week. Weekend Review, to the glory of God, is 2 years old, and we say to you, God, thank you for how far you've brought us. Now, we want to treat our topic of the week, but if you're a first viewer of this program, we have our WhatsApp line up screen and our Facebook page, Weekend Review with Dollarich. Just get connected with us. But on the 7th of August, now, we are meeting at Miracle Temple Assemblies of God. For those of you in and around Achimota and from everywhere in Ghana, if you want to be part, we have our advert up screen and then our numbers up screen as well. So just call us if you want to be part. Bring the family together. This is a program. It is non-denominational, so don't exempt yourself. Come with the family. Let's pray together to redeem the beauty and the glory God has given our family. In fact, I'll be there and it's going to be awesome. But we'll take this quick break. When we come back, we are treating our topic of the week.
Tell me, what can I do?
This is the moment to join hundreds of families praying to make their relationships, marriages, and homes better through divine grace. Join Weekend Review with Dollarich on GTV Live in redeeming the family glory.
Under an atmosphere of worship and prayer, GTV Live, your religion and culture channel, invites you to come intercede, rebuild, and restore the family glory. The venue is
Miracle Temple Assemblies of God at Chimota, near the collapsed Melcom building, with Reverend Jonas Yawotete. The date is Sunday, 7th August 2016. Time 8 a.m. sharp. The theme: Keep the Family Alive. Esther chapter 4 verse 16.
Precious one. Evangelist John Lee Dollarich of Weekend Review Show on GTV Live believes you can redeem the family glory through relentless prayer.
Now I decree and I declare that your family will stand, your marriage will stand, your business will stand, your relationship will stand. You will never fail in the name of Jesus.
I can't make it on my own.
You are welcome back. Thank you so much for being part of this program. You are my favorites. I mean, for 2 years, you've been consistent with us, and the program's still growing bigger and better. And I say today we are coming your way again with another topic. This topic we treated last 6 weeks thereabouts, and the same men of God are on set with me to give more clarity and further insight into it. We treated this topic, perversion, sexual immorality, and we want to go deeper because there are some things we were unable to touch, and today they are here to help us do justice to this topic. And let me go to my far left and welcome my brother. Osofo, you're welcome.
Thank you.
How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Okay. For me, they know me as Dollarich. We want to know you again.
I'm Jonas Ineku. From Transform Life Ministries.
Osofo, you're welcome.
Thank you.
It's always a blessing having you on set.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Wow. And on my immediate left is this wonderful man. I mean, I don't know how to describe him. Also, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And my viewers would like to know you.
Oh, I'm Alexander Jemfi Glory from the Redeeming Christ Chapel, Adabraka.
Osofo, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
It's an honor having you.
Amen.
And viewers, we are bringing your way this topic, perversion. Now, can you imagine? I mean, people going around exploiting. I mean, just exploring and exploiting everything that they can lay hands on. Now, it's quite critical though, but we want to see how best we can help our young brothers and sisters and even some older folks out there that are going, somebody will say, outside the norms to do things which are quite unspeakable. But today, may God have grace upon us, even as we treat this topic, so that somebody somewhere might be able to do a U-turn, a turnaround for the better. I hear somebody say amen. Now, also, let's look at it. Some 6 weeks ago, we were talking about this sexual perversion and sexual immorality. I mean, but let's look at it, the origin, how these things come about. Can we trace it from somewhere? I mean, does it have any root cause? Or is it people who just personally become perverse? Or we can trace it from somewhere?
All right. Thank you, viewers. You are welcome to our program. Perversion, it's actually a word that was later coined, I think around the 1660s. The word pervert was used to actually refer to or define somebody who has forsaken the faith, apostate, or somebody who has gone out of the law. Later on, sex pervert or sexual perversion came to be attached somewhere around the 1896 thereabout, to imply a situation where one sexual orientation is changed from the orthodox one. And so when in terms of academics, by virtue of the word sexual perversion, we looked at it around the 19th century, that the word came to stay, to actually define or classify or categorize the various sexual acts that are outside from the norm. But if we want to look at it from its etymological point of view or from its origin point of view, where the origins, we can trace it as far back as creation, the beginning of creation. And the story has it that Satan had fallen with his angels. In Genesis chapter 6, we are told how in the time of Noah, God repented for creating man. And what was the reason? Because the Bible says that the sons of God came to have intimacy with the daughters of men. Now, the sons of God were not referring to human beings, but some of the angelic hosts, the cohorts of Satan, who were sacked or demoted all the way from heaven to come down here on earth. And the Bible says when they came to marry the daughters of men.
That's right.
Now, why is it perversion? It's perversion because we are talking about celestial beings having sexual intercourse with human beings. And the orientation is wrong, because angels were not even created to have intimacy in the first place. So once they are now going into human beings, then there is perversion. And this led to a whole lot of immorality in the system, to the extent that God, the Bible described that God repented for creating man. As a result, was the flood that destroyed or wiped away almost everyone on the surface of the earth, leaving just 8, Noah and a couple of families with the animals. You know, so when we look at perversion, where it started from, we can look at it from that angle. Now, in the human terms, this grew into Lot's time, when there's again Sodom and Gomorrah, we are told that they, at the point when the angels visited, they have almost defiled every male or female in the streets through homosexuality.
And they wanted more.
And they wanted more. Even this time they wanted even the angels too. Yes. So sexual perversion is not a new thing. Yes, it's not a new thing. It can be traced way back to creation after even the fall of man. And that is also what the fall of man brought, because depravity also changed the perception and orientation of the mindset, leading to some of these things. So it's just in terms of the wedding as sexual perversion that was not adapted or was not used during that time. We have such names as sodomy, homosexuality, or the description of the act. But when we talk about where it started from, we can trace it as far back to Noah's time, even Nimrod, then to Lot. So we have come far with it. And all through history, for two major reasons, or for this particular reason, God had to destroy the earth, or destroy some part of the earth, because people were into sexual perversion. And God thought that there was no way the human survivor would be complete or would be successful when we have such sexual orientation in the system. So if God would destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of sexual perversion, if God will wipe away all humans on the surface of the earth because of sexual perversion, then sexual perversion is a serious issue than we think of it.
So I really agree with you. If you're watching us right now, this is Weekend Review. Now, here we are bringing the family together and reshaping society for tomorrow's generations. Yes, we do believe in the next generation. Therefore, whatever we can, we will do to ensure that children and children after us, will not walk in some of the errors that has happened in time past. Now, we have our WhatsApp line up screen and our Facebook page, Weekend Review with Dollarich. Just get connected to us. If you have any questions, any views, just let them come in, and we will talk to you as well. Now, I'll go to Osofu JMV, because I realize you were nodding in affirmation to the background info that was coming. I know you do have more to touch on. Take it up, and then let's see how best we can go through.
I realized that it was really hitting the point. Because if you have the basics of all things, as the book of Jeremiah chapter 6 says, that this is what the Lord is saying. Go and stand in the roads or in the paths, and they begin to ask for the old paths. Ask your fathers, and they will teach you. And if even you refuse it, ask the beasts, animals, and they will tell you. And this is what you should not actually miss in your life. That even animals are quite, composed in terms of, natural principles that God actually put into them. And it was quite, bad in those days that humanity had come so down. Our psychic and everything was gone down. But what will we do? We've got to preach. We've got to tell it. We've got to teach. We've got to make it known. And so in those days, when demons came, they were quite, abnormal in size. For which reason, even traces after the first world was destroyed because of sexual perversion. We could see the traces in Goliath from those days. And the sons of men that he spoke about was just, using sarcastic, phrases to describe, angels, and they were called sons of God for the fact that they had been with God. And the fallen aspect of it is a Christian form of trying to describe those who couldn't, hold their positions in heaven. And so we say they are fallen angels, demons, stinking spirits, unclean spirits. We call them damoni. Money, and it tells you what actually happened. And in Genesis, they are called Nephilim, and that tells you that they are not of the human descent.
That's right.
And like he said, it was quite terrible in those days, and it is still at work. They never came by any biological traces. By the time you realize they were in town, up to date, we've been told even some time ago that even during Christmas, you see so many people in town that sometimes you can't predict exactly
where they come
very good. And certain times you meet certain women, and somewhere even in the city of Accra, not even more than 5 years, some places where people will go and jam themselves in the night, where at a seaside or seashore, you see women swimming in the night, and young men fall into the sea at a certain peak of the night. And how did you get into it? And demons are quite powerful. You must understand that they've got some kind of power, dynamics, that they have the ability to influence the human mind and to get into you. They are quite artistic and full of philosophies that will, impede into the system and carry you unawares. And so when they came, like he said, they were able to get women. And why always women? In the first place, before the fall of man, the enemy came through a woman. You understand? And this time so. And so sexual corruption or perversion or defiance from the original began at that time. And it tells you how God became, disappointed in humanity, who has had all the fullness of God, the Spirit and everything. We could cast them off. And no wonder in the book of Mark chapter 16, verse 17, the Bible says that, and he gave power. He said, go into all the world and then preach the gospel to every creature. Those that believe, they will cast out devils. That was the first thing. And so Jesus' ministry is to focus on the devil and to deal with them. And so today, sexual perversion, we are dealing with the devil. We are dealing with demons. We are dealing with any form that does not conform in a positive conformation. That's what I'm trying to say. Link to the principles that God set in place for us, that we do give no chance or place in our lives or in office or in any other place that they should come and rule on our hearts, on our minds, and any symbol or something connected to that which we are unaware. We have to be very, very careful. We must be filled with the Spirit of God, who will guide us, lead us, strengthen us, teach us, and even remind us as we speak now. One will forget, but I pray that the Spirit of God will take us through the reminder process, that we shall be reminded of Him. And so we are not dealing with normal thing, because sex is sacred, sex is holy, sex is good, sex is God-driven, sex is God-given, sex is God-guiding. And as a matter of fact, if anybody will go into it, it did happen when God had put man and woman together by consent, not even from heaven alone, but from the family setup, that for this reason, a man shall leave his father, his mother, and go join himself to a woman. And so anyone that wouldn't do sex by the consent of divinity and that of the family is in the perversion aspect.
Wow.
And aside the fact that what God instituted, any form or way or means that you have sex, it is also perversion.
If you're watching the program, it's getting quite interesting here. We just started, and it is sexual perversion. Now, we have our WhatsApp line up screen and our Facebook page. We can review with Dollarich. Just get connected to us. I'm on set with Reverend Jonas Hineku and Reverend Jemfi Glory. I mean, it's getting quite interesting here. I'll go back to them now. Reverend Hineku, let's find out something. Now let's be very local. here. There are some of our brothers and sisters out there who think that, oh, it is very okay to just have sex with anybody at any given time. You know, sometimes people meet, I wouldn't say partners, but they meet somebody within a day or two and they are having sex. They're exploring themselves all over the place, not even knowing the background of the lady or the man. I mean, but they are doing all that they can. Also, are there dangers if you take such path?
You don't seem to be asking an obvious question, but it's obvious that there are, yes, of course, there are dangers. I want to, we should understand that for me, as far as sexual perversion is concerned, there is no such thing as fundamental human rights on sexual preference. And no amount of law that is enforced to make it look right will ever make it right.
That's right.
Once the sexual orientation is wrong from the orthodox way, sometimes people will argue, but there is no place in the Bible that God actually described or guided how it must be done. So how do you know that this is the orthodox sexual orientation? As I tell them that go and look for the animals. Go and look for the animals, see what the animals are doing, and find out whether any animal is doing something contrary
to
that. If the animal is entering a wrong hole, then you can say that. So if the human beings who are given higher insight,
with rational mind,
that's it, are trying to justify it, when the animals who don't have those reasoning abilities still maintain that this is how it should be done, and there is no way I go this way or that way. You don't see dogs chasing after goats. Even goats, yes, even goats who prefer goats and jump on their mummies. At some point in time, they say, hey, wait a minute, I think this is my mother, let me stop. You know? But as far as the sexual scope, the limits are concerned, even animals are organized.
Wow.
They know how to do it.
Wow.
And they do it well, not missing. So there is no amount of justification, rationalization that one tries to give in the name of law, human rights, human choice, sexual preferences, to justify that this is what I want to do is cool. So it is right. It is demonic. It is abnormal. It is just weird.
Terrible.
And wrong. It is highly demonic. It is very abnormal. If somebody is doing that, is perverted in any sexual form, I want to challenge you. No matter how they test the brains with whatever test at the mental, psychiatry, wherever, I'm still challenging that the person would still have something wrong with the brains if you are perverting sex.
Wow.
For me, that's my stance. Because there is no genetic problem. And I've always said this, that for instance, whatever is genetic, that God knows that it was part of his creation, he will not call it sin. So once God is calling something, if homosexuality, if lesbianism is a sin, it's nature. If somebody has a genetic DNA that has traces of it in it, God wouldn't have said that homosexuality is a sin. Because he knows that it is part of the DNA. And therefore, in the future, somebody will grow with such DNA generic traces and therefore the person cannot be at fault when the person is involved in that. So the sexual orientations, no matter how you try to look at it, to polish it, to justify or rationalize it, is still wrong as far as the principles of God is concerned. Now, let's come back to the issue of people feeling that it is cool, even on the normal plane, to sleep around. You see, we don't understand even this whole thing about sex in the first place. God did not make sex for pleasure in the first place. That's not the primary reason. The primary reason was for procreation.
In other words, not for entertainment.
No, entertainment comes in secondary. All those other things, you see, we have what we call the main thing. When you are teaching, you look for what is the main aim. What's the main thing? And the main thing should always be the main thing. God's primary reason, yes, he knows that whatever he has programmed there, fun will come with it. But he didn't begin it with fun. He started with procreation. And that is why he maintained that sex should only be in the confines of a formalized marriage. It should be in the confines of marriage alone, because the reason why it was created is not primarily for entertainment. If it was for entertainment, he knows that boys and girls need it most. Because we, the sexual exuberance, the youthful exuberance, and all that, would demand that it should be a part of our entertainment things. But he restricted it to the marriage, said that it is only when you are married that you should have it. And therefore, if you are not married and you are doing that, it is called fornication. And it is the only sexual act that the Bible says, flee, develop wings, and run away from it. So, again, you cannot say it's fun. Because, one, by even trying to have it when you are not married, you are perverting it, because you have gone outside the scope with which it was designed. It was designed for the marriage. So to not to marry and be doing it, it's even perversion in itself. Then, as if that was not enough, you decide to explore by jumping from one to the other.
As if you are doing pollination.
Whether it's cross or whatever. You know? So, to even have one and not married is wrong. To even be married, you have to stay with one. If you go more, it is called adultery. It's called promiscuity. It's called licentiousness. So many names, nice ones, have been given to it, but it comes with deadly consequences. Now, why would sex be confined or restricted to the marriage? One, sex is a spirit. In the blood, in the spermatozoa, in the fluid, the semen of the woman, is the life of the person. So there is spirit behind it. That is why at some point they believe that what consummates the marriage is sex. So anytime you are involved in any sexual intimacy, there's an exchange of spirit.
So everywhere you hate,
yes,
you are changing spirit.
Once there is that connection, there is the exchange of spirit. Somebody will say, what if I wear the condom? All right? Or protect myself so that my blood doesn't go in. No. It is not just the spilling of the blood, but it is about the bonding, the fact that there is an intercourse, because it establishes some kind of covenant relationship.
Wow.
Once you do that. So you sleep with somebody, you have taking on part of the person. And that is why at some point in time, when even people are dating and there is a breakup, it leads to some spiritual problems and even mental problems, including broken heart. Because a part of you is gone into the person.
Wow.
And once it's broken, it's like you are attached to something. It has broken and taken a part of your flesh away. You feel pain. And so sex is spiritual and not just a physical activity. And once it's spiritual, it always invokes some spiritual forces. So when you are sleeping with somebody you don't know, you may not know what it possesses. Let me tell you something. I wouldn't want anyone to try it, but if you want to challenge it, you can try it. Anyone who cheats on his partner, the partner will end up cheating on him. Because you have transferred a spirit of cheating and adultery. If you like, try it. When you cheat on your wife, it's just a matter of time. She will cheat on you because you have brought a spirit into her. The person you cheated on your wife with may carry a spirit, and the spirit will be transferred to you. You will transfer that spirit through sex to your wife.
That's right.
And your wife will possess. So if your wife is not a strong Christian and prayerful, who will break such bond, it is just a matter of time that your wife is equally going to cheat on you.
That's right.
So when you are cheating, expect that your wife will cheat if she's not a strong Christian. It's just a matter of time. And the more spirits you invite by having sex with different people,
playing around,
you have multiple spiritual forces. It can destroy.
And that one will come even more faster.
Yes. Let me add this, and this is a true story. A woman cheated on the husband. The husband got broke. The husband became poor, and they didn't understand. And with time, she herself dreamt and realized that anytime she went to sleep with another man and took money from the man to come and cook for the family, she has put in a husband into slavery, that the husband will continue to be in slavery.
Wow.
Because there is a spirit, there is a force that controls sex. And when it is perverted, you don't have a positive force backing it, but a negative force. Once it is perverted, once it is being done not in the confines of God, you are inviting demonic spirits to control your married world. As scary as it may sound, but it is true.
It is true.
And we can't make anything light of it. You say that it's cool. It's just a matter of time. You will know the consequences. Let's take the medical issues aside. I'm talking about the spiritual forces that follows living in sexual immorality, living in sexual perversion. Sometimes you don't even know who you are sleeping with. Like we have said, we have just read from the Bible that sons of God, that demonic spirits came to sleep with the daughters of men. So you meet somebody even out there, you don't know whether it's a spirit, but you are sleeping with the person.
It looks a bit scary, Osofo.
Yes.
I'll come back to you. This is a weekend review show right here on GTV Live, Your Religion and Culture Channel with me, Johnny called Dollarich. Now, it's getting quite scary if you ask me, and I don't know about you, but it looks like some of us are taking certain things for granted. But after this show, I'm sure you'll revise your note and begin to do the right thing. Here, we are bringing the family together and reshaping society for tomorrow's generation. We do believe in the next generation. Now, let me go to Osofo Jemfi. Now, Osofo, you know, from the way things are, looks like it is no longer an issue of physical stuff. It looks like there's some influence of some spiritual things when a man is moving here and there. A lady is trying all her hands on every man here and there. I know there are some things that influence this sexual thing. I mean, how can we just understand them? I mean, are there some symbols and connotations, and are there certain things that we can easily identify with when we are in such area?
Wow. Kudos to my brother. And he's given me the opportunity to bring one example. There was a woman from Magdala. We normally call her Mary Magdalene. It simply means Mary from Magdala. You know, Jesus' mother was Mary. And then there was another Mary. You remember Mary and Martha. So the Marys were becoming too many. And so her place is like Judas of Iscariot, becoming Judas Iscariot. And so their cities were attached to their name, like Kwajokrum,
that's right,
Amagana, depending on what actually happened. And so Mary of Magdala was one of those, people that the Reverend was talking about, that so many demons had to be, exorcised out of her or cast out of her, about 37 demons. And we know the history quite well, and sleeping with this, and at one time she had to change because she met Jesus when the Pharisees had caught her red-handed. And so you've got to understand one thing, and let me say that your question falls in line with the things that we're doing, because sexual perversion is a religion on its own.
Wow.
It's a worship.
Wow.
You see, it is a house where gods, are raised. The Nephilims, or the sons of God, were demons. Now we get into demonology.
Okay.
Were demons or unclean spirits, evil spirits. And they took upon themselves human flesh. This is where it is dangerous. It does happen up to date. There are spirits, and you've heard of Mame Wata girls. Not only women, there are men.
Exactly.
In fact, the Bible did not, in terms of dealing with the issues of sexual perversion, he started with men, sons of God. They came to daughters of men. This brings us to some kind of low IQ, a psychological building or built up in women must be well looked. The Bible says that they are weaker vessels because of some of these minuses in them. And so if you're a woman listening to me, you've got to be very, very careful when it comes to sexual lifestyle. And if you are not careful, the enemy will take over your mind. There is somebody behind your house. And when we talk about the question you asked, do you know the person? In fact, the word know, you see, first used in the book of Genesis, as Adam knew his wife, was not really something like, I know this lady. I know that lady just by physical appearance, by name, and that. But we're dealing with intimacy, the power of penetration, the ability to enter into a woman, that is sex. And so to know someone is to be able to discern that which is in the person, that which you want to draw. Because like he said, the thing you do is with your flesh. There is nothing wrong with that if it is by the biblical principle. But there is everything wrong with it when you have not discerned, number one, the personality. Two, the one you are intermeddling with. Three, the psychological power. Four, the demons present. Because covenant, as he said, is connected to it. We have sex because of covenant, in which we have marriage in it. And so there are spirits controlling right from Genesis. And when we go to the book of First Kings chapter 14, I think verse 17 there, about 23, the Bible says that, and there was a sodomy shrine connected. That is why it is religion. Because anytime you are influenced by demons to do that, you are worshiping the devil.
That's right.
And to worship simply means to fall prostrate. In other words, to humble yourself under the feet of a king. And so if you will understand worship from the point of action rather than singing, Yeshirao, Asafo, Yehowa, that is not what we're talking about, worship. You have some kind of, ecstasy within you. But worship is an act. To fall prostrate, to lie down. Simply put, you are higher than me.
Wow.
You have authority over me. You have more than I can have. I will never ever be like you. Your supremacy is uncomparable. And therefore, I come to the level of a dust that you can step on me. And that is worship. Now, in the religion of sex, in the book of First Kings I quoted, there was a shrine that is behind the temple of God. And that tells you the church and sex right from the days of old. You understand? Also linking to Genesis chapter 9, 10, 11, where Nimrod, he mentioned, came. Semiramis, which today is depicted like, Mary and Jesus. Let me just put that aside. Semiramis brought the worship of sex because she did forbid, you understand, sexual relationship with his own husband and took over the son, Nimrod. You understand? And that was a serious matter. That which came out of the womb at the time, generations have come and gone. Multiplicity had become the order of the day. We have had families, we have had extended, we have had tribes, we have had nations, cities, and towns. Therefore, blood linkage was a taboo, and she did. And at a certain point, there was a religion connected to it. And so Nimrod was not just a great hunter, was not just a man with an extraordinary physique and power or ability to, do whatever he was doing, but was influenced by a spirit. And this I bring to display today. We have Venus, the goddess of love, in other words, erotical love. And Cupid is said to be the sun. That is a male counterpart. Cupid is a Roman, and the Greek counterpart is Eros. We always see this to the extent that it's so much painful that we see it even in the temple of God. And this was a god worshipped, connected to human feelings and passions. Venus. Now, Cupid is most of the time seen as an infant winged person. That is like a baby, an infant with wings at the back. And then we're having some kind of, wrapping, like, a diaper or a napkin around it. And we see it all the time. That's what I'm saying, that it's so much painful that at certain times we see such ones as if they are angels in certain churches. And that is Cupid for you. And he's always holding the bow and the arrow.
That's right.
That is the symbols I'm dealing with your question.
That's right.
The bow and the arrow. And then we see something like a shape of this nature, symbolizing, according to the worldly standards, I don't call it the heart. You understand? Because it is nowhere near. And I don't entertain satanic statements anywhere in my life. And so it was not. First, they took it from what we call the silphium seed that looked a little bit like that. Then later, like the male, you understand, taken out of it to carve and to draw M. And then at the ends of the standing or the feet of the M, it is curved and then met together. And so it forms this shape. Today, let me try to do what they do.
Okay.
This, sign. You understand?
Yeah.
Or
More
in this
like
way.
this. Yes. Okay.
And Ask your doctors if the heart looks like this.
Doesn't.
You understand? The heart doesn't look like that. It looks like the mango in terms of natural fruits. People think that it is just like that. We mostly try to link it to the apple and totally being blinded and deceived intellectually that it is like the apple. You take the apple,
normal apple
and try as much as possible hold the various markings that brings out the shapes, and then you cut it into two. Check the opening. I will give you the etymology, the background, the origin of this. It is a symbol of the buttocks of a woman, and then you see the shape of a buttock this way, meeting it. Then it's like there is a thing or partial line out of it. And then we have what they call the heart. Symbolically, it was the symbol of Cupid as the god of Eros, that is love, and of sex. You understand? This also is of the slang type, but naturally, I'm here to get into it. It is not just the buttock, which also symbolic of fertility.
That's right.
You understand?
That's right.
The buttock. The buttock doesn't produce. In fact, drawing it to get to the anal section does not produce human. Procreation is not connected to the back. It is 100% an issue of error. You understand? A feeling that when you look at the back of a woman, how she walks and how they dress. And that is why sexual perversion, in a better way to put it, we call it pornography.
That's right.
Porneia. You understand? It is more or less an act. And that is why in our modern times, when a woman dresses with so tight dressings, you are portraying pornography. You are part of it, you painting the picture. Prostitute, graphos means a picture, an art. And so you're depicting it out there. And so these are symbols connected to sexual perversion. Whether you like it, a woman preacher or whoever, you are a novice in terms of historical facts. When we deal with
That's right.
sexual perversion. And so Cupid always had arrow. The arrow we know symbolically as a matter of strength.
That's right.
It's for protection. It's for hunting. It's to show an enormous power over the enemy. You understand? Far above this historical and cultural understanding of the people, you understand, is the representation of the male genitalia.
That's right.
The arrow you see with that shape,
with that tip,
very good, the tip of it is symbolic of the,
that's right,
the male genitalia. You understand? And so that will click you into a search. That which we call it as the buttocks by history, but it was insulting in the eyes of the kings and the elders in council when you begin to show such things, because tattoos are there to show some of these things. It was a female genitalia. The piercing of the arrow from the upper side of it is to humble you. You understand?
I get you.
Cupid shooting the arrow by the pivot of the bow into a heart. You understand? Sometimes you see it this way, sometimes this way.
Yeah.
But the original way is this way, because the penis doesn't go this way, it goes this way. I hope you are getting it. Now, it has a power from the top into the female genitalia. And so the arrows is from a source shooting into the inner side of it. And that is so close. We have the labia. So this shape is the labia. This side is also the labia of the female genitalia. The crossing of it is to connect and to bind it and we call it bondage.
Bondage. That's where you put the two together.
And so sexual perversion, if it is taken from the back, then anal sex is linked to it. Now, these things were practiced in the shrines, like 1 Kings chapter 14, 23, and then 2 Kings. It is also there. Wow. But the first one were in the days of Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, the man of who? Multiple sex. Solomon saw so many women.
That's right.
You understand? So many women. And in the days of Rehoboam, a shrine was built. Remember that the Hebrew, today, the church, the Christian, is not to intermarry with anybody outside the faith of the church. Solomon was not traditionally and divinely take anybody outside his country. And almost all the women that he brought, as a matter of fact, go and look at the names of the women that Solomon married and took as concubines. And you could come to realize that the Hebrew names are absent. And that tells you that walking with Jehovah, walking in the law of Moses, and making David his, a mentor and even godfather was not there. I'm trying to cut off even the biological aspect of it. And so in the days of Rehoboam, a shrine for prostitution or pornography, sexual perversion, that's the word. And so they call it the Sodomites. The shrine for the Sodomites. When you read the Bible, you find it over there. And Reverend spoke about it, that the perversion hadn't come to stay. Pornography, porneia, hadn't come to stay. But under normal circumstances, I will not choose your word as perversion. I will use pornography. And so the shrine for pornography had been built behind the temple of Solomon. And it's so terrible. It took so very many years until Josiah had come to the throne. Then he began to deal with it. As today in the church, there are churches who have always singles and married. Then we see this. And so what do you expect? What do you expect to happen? We may do all the things, because when the symbol is not for you, we call it logo today. You understand? A crest today. And so if you do not have the power of creativity to create your own, it doesn't matter what you do. That which is not for you. Jesus made a logo statement while they were in his missionary journey. One time the tax collectors came and said, pay us your tax. And they came to Jesus, that these people are collecting. You are the Messiah, the King of Kings. And see these inferior guys coming for money. Right. Then he said, do you have any coin with you? Then they brought it and said that, look at it. He said, whose head? In other words, whose logo? What icon do you see on it?
That's right.
Then they said, Caesar, Caesar. Then he says that everything that Caesar has crafted, has modeled, fashioned, worked out, give it back to him, because the original source of this thing you hold in belongs. We have necklaces, and you see the companies who do manufacture have it. And today, as we talk, we have Cupid tablets, the god, the erotica, sexual love we're dealing with. Tablets, even to boost men in terms of sex, and women to do more. And so there are so many things connected to it. And people do not know it. That to the extent that certain programs of the church, we are lost in terms of symbols, signs, logos in the church, that even somebody's church logo, when you look at it, you check the drawings, you check the markings, you check the way they are done, then you feel the pain, because you realize that Bible says that knowledge shall be the stability of your times. So how can the church stabilize since knowledge is not there? The Bible says that knowledge will spread forth like the dust of the shores of the sea. In your days, knowledge will cause you to excel. And Bible said that I will feed them with, also I will give them pastors that shall feed them with knowledge and understanding. And so from the point of knowledge, when the church is lacking, and it is a matter of prosperity gospels, and somebody said touch you, you are also doing it. Christians, excuse me to use this word, in terms of studies, you understand, seem to be the weakest, the only religious house where they do not have any respect for their norms. Christians compared to Muslims, compared to the Chintos, compared to Buddhists, you understand, you come to realize that they are the only people around the world and in the world and by the world, with the world, who use anything without meaning.
Everything
sometimes. Only few men of God are accustomed to that which we say. And so you can pray all the prayers. You can say all the prophecies to the extent that we do not see trouble in the house, even with a prophetic eye. We don't see some of these things. We do not even know. And that's not what we dream toward. The redemption process, redeeming the family,
from the glory.
The family is the basic unit of every country. And the family we lack. Men, women, like you said. Apollo Theater. They met at Afrikiko. Oh, my friend introduced, and immediately there was
a handshake.
A handshake. There was a transfer of demons into them, and they were, startled. Immediately, passions began to roll. They said, Pastor, if I tell you, you won't believe. As for me, those words, they don't really change me. God bless you.
Well, I don't know about you. I don't know, but you know what? We have our WhatsApp line up screen. Our Facebook page, Wicked Review with Dollarich. Just get connected to us. I know this is the classroom where you can get all the knowledge, all the facts, the research, everything that you need to keep the family in check. Now, we are building a society, we are building a family that in the next years to come, in the next generations to come, you will be able to be proud of your own family, your children, and your children's children. This is Weekend Review. Now, we want to wrap up. Also, our time is fast spent, but a quick one. Somebody will be sitting out there. How do I, if I'm into such thing, how do I come out? Because I know a lot of people, I won't say whether they knew or they didn't know, but some fall victim to certain things and they want a way out. In a minute, what will you tell such people?
All right. I said that I will begin with the story. A dog was once believed that it was the fastest runner. And one day, a rabbit was passing by, and then they asked the dog, can you outrun this rabbit? He said, oh, yes, why not? He said, oh, yes, I can. He said, okay, let's try it. Then he started chasing the rabbit. It went round for about 30 minutes and came back panting and almost at death. And so their friends were teasing it about, but why couldn't you catch it? Then it said that, don't mind that rabbit. I am running for my dinner. It was running for its life. Acceleration is different.
What a big one there.
The dog was chasing the rabbit for the dinner. The rabbit was running for its life. So acceleration will not be the same.
The same thing. I get it.
So in life, your acceleration depends on what you are chasing after or what is chasing you.
That's right.
It begins with you realizing that from what we are telling you, what we are sharing with viewers today, should bring that sense of danger through this awareness.
That's right.
That sex is not fun, and perverting it is dangerous.
That's right.
We have talked about symbols, we have talked about origins, we have talked about the spirits that surround it. So at this time, you should know that when you have a weird sexual orientation, you are not okay. Even if you go to church, you are being controlled by a spirit. And that cannot be the spirit of God, of course. You are being controlled by a demonic spirit. So once you have that awareness, you have to develop a sense of urgency, seeking for change. It doesn't just happen that you make a decision to change, but that also begins with finding out whether you are truly born again. You understand it? Because to some extent, I will tell you that if you are into sexual perversion, you are demon possessed.
Okay.
And from my theology, Christians cannot be possessed by demons. So if you are living that life and it shows that you are demon possessed, you should know that your Christian standing
is questionable.
It's questionable.
That's right.
And therefore you have to begin the journey with Jesus. If it is carnality in itself, it means that you are being manipulated by demons. And that will also require that you go through a deliverance process. It is not just making a decision to change, which is also the most important step. That once you know it's wrong, desire that I want to increase my acceleration for change. Start with Jesus Christ. If there is a need to go through deliverance, go through deliverance.
That's right.
And then you have to check your association. Pastor have mentioned symbols. You know, I want to say this last thing. The importance of symbols, how they manipulate and influence our lives. I'll use a story to just say it. One time, Jacob went to his father-in-law, that was Laban. When he was leaving, his wife stole the idols. Now Laban followed him. And when he met Jacob, he said something. In tree, he said, "Una osi weni aje se oko weje fie. Ade no wase sami enyame no aka ho." It was the wife who stole. I said, you desire to go to your father's house. You want to be a Christian. You want to be free. Why have you taken my gods along with you? Why was Laban following? Because he still has his idols. With Jacob has taken along his idols. So if you have their symbols, if you are playing with their symbols, then you are inviting them.
They will come after you.
They will come after you. So Laban followed because his idols has gone to... He has no problem with you going to your father's house, you wanting to be a Christian. But carrying along his idols is why he's following you to get them, because they don't belong to you. So when you are keeping their symbols, they will still be around you and hunt you.
They'll be associated with you.
They'll be associated with you.
And there will be trouble.
Because by doing that, you are still invoking their presence around. Jesus said that, for the prince of this world is coming, but he has nothing in me. But when he has something in you,
definitely,
he counts for it.
Also,
Papa,
in a minute,
some people see others holding the apple and it's like they are biting. It's a sexual corruption. You understand? People have the arrows drawn on their shoulders. About 99.9% belongs to the male genitalia, Cupid's arrow, not really for defense, not really for friendship. If you have it crossed in this way, you are totally in friendship and in covenant. That's how I call it. Covenant, a bond with Eros. You can be yourself. We have seen this female genitalia thing, which they say it is the heart. Please don't be a fool. You understand? Because you've not really opened your eyes to know the truth. Never draw it and do not buy. You call it Valentine's Day. You don't have much history into that. And so you buy cards. You have all these things. Sometimes you buy paperbacks. You have this sign on it. Sometimes you buy envelopes, they are on it. Sometimes you buy dresses, they are on it. Jacob, you don't allow Laban to follow you. Demons, women, men out there. I want to challenge you. You belong to Jesus Christ. Pastors, try, read wider, get to know some of these things, and save the church.
Save the church. If you ask me, it is well.
Always well.
This is Weekend Review. Here we say we are bringing the family together and reshaping society for tomorrow's generations. We do believe in the next generations. All is not lost. If our God is with us, we are not afraid of any storm that will hit at us. Now, call the family together. Let them know and assure them that with God on our side, we can cross every storm that comes our way. I want to say a big thank you to Reverend Jonas Inoku for passing through. Today has been challenging. Thank you so much for coming.
Welcome.
And also, JV, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed.
As the deep hangs for water, so my soul longs after thee. My heart's desire is to be in your presence, for in your presence is fullness of joy. As the deer hangs for water, so my soul longs after thee. My heart's desire is to please your heart and exalt